Hi, I'm talking today with Dan Levin, the general manager at Pellman's Auto Service in Boulder, Colorado. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
Yeah, I'm glad you could make it. I've been doing a series interviewing various members of ASA and their employees now for a couple of reasons. One, we have a series where we'd like to explore what different perceptions are of what we need to do in the industry. But more importantly, I think it's important to be able to introduce the individuals who are going to be the next leaders in our industry. You're one of them. When I called and talked to some of the members and asked them if they had some younger individuals that they thought I would be good to talk to, your name came up. So blame Brad, but this is why you're here today. So
happy to be here, Tony.
I'm glad you could make it. I'm glad you could make it. Again, I've known Pellman's Auto Service forever. I've known Brad and Lisa forever. In fact, I'll be interviewing Brad in a couple of weeks, but I wanted to talk today to you and find out a little bit about yourself. Let me start with my standard first question. How did you get into the industry? How did you get here?
Well, I think the same way a lot of my peers got into this industry, sometimes by accident, which is the honest truth about how I ended up here. In high school, I wasn't completely certain what I wanted to do. My parents were very gracious to buy me a Eurail pass when I graduated, and instead of going to my high school graduation, I went and traveled in Europe for a little while. And probably the best education you can get is traveling. I appreciate Canadian and Australian perspective on that. I think it certainly grows your world in ways staying home doesn't. And I came back and went to college. I thought I wanted to do a psychology, biology dual major. Realized after about a year and a half of doing that was not at all what I wanted to do. Thought I might like working on people because I really enjoyed people so much. Actually went to the Rolf Institute here in Boulder, did the first year, Foundations of Body Work, and quickly realized that I was not equipped to give life advice and body advice to people twice my age, at the age of 21, 22 years old. Ran a rental car company in town, which is how partly that I met Brad, called Agency Rent-A-Car for a little while. But ultimately, the reason I met Brad is because I bought an old International Harvester from one of his buddies through him at the auto dock where he worked before he opened Pellman's Automotive. And go figure, that old International Harvester needed work from time to time. So when Brad and Lisa opened Pellman's Automotive, I was here frequently. And in fact, when my company was purchased by Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and I didn't want to go work for Enterprise, I said goodbye to my rental car career, and we were in the process of doing a frame-off restoration on the Scout here. We had it all taken apart, and I was going to owe Brad so much money that I was going to have to either wash dishes or come work for him. So by the time the Scout was done, I knew the routine around the shop a little bit. He was growing with Lisa's help. They were turning this into a successful business already, and the phones were ringing. And I signed on thinking, wouldn't it be great to learn some more about cars? So yeah, that was 1997. Okay. I'm still here.
Yeah.
That's how I got into the industry, and it's been a wonderful ride.
Well, it never ceases to amaze me, the different stories. A lot of the folks that grew up in my generation came into the industry because, they worked at a gas station like I did, actually. Sure. And just kind of learned at the knee of the master. But there's different stories now. The individuals who are coming into our industry, some of them have a mechanical background. A lot of them do. Some of them are graduates of like automotive technology or career and technology education centers. But a lot of them are individuals that were looking for a stable career and chose the automotive industry because they perceived it to be a stable career. You are certainly an example of that. If you've been with Brad, it's about 21 years now, right?
Yeah, we're beyond that. We're going on 24 years here.
Wow.
So it's been a very long time.
Yeah.
And to all my friends that are in the software world, or name an industry, that seems insane to people that I've been in one place for that long. And it's been great. I love it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the technicians that have been with us for, 10, 15, 18 years.
Mhm.
It's nice to be able to enjoy what you do for a living, enjoy the people you work with, and have a consistent place that's always there for you, always there for the customers, always there for the employees. And it's been wonderful.
Well, a lot of people find a lot of fulfillment in serving the public, serving people, actually. And I think that's part and parcel of what the automotive service industry does. Let's talk a little bit about your role there. You're the general manager of Pellman's Automotive, just one location, right?
Just one location. Over the years, we've grown beyond the first building that we've been in.
Mhm.
So we've expanded into the building across the fence from us. So in essence, we're running one location from two locations, using the same management software, the same phone lines.
Uh-huh.
So it's the easiest expansion you can do. I don't have to drive across town. We don't have multiple points of contact in terms of management software and such. But yeah, one big location and two buildings.
Great, great. And I read the website. You have about 18 employees, right?
Yeah, right now, 8 full-time technicians. We're running 4 people on the counter. I have
Mhm.
basically 2 really full-fledged service advisors, a couple people that we hired as CSRs, but they have just grown so far beyond that they're, the team of 4 is fantastic.
Mm.
So great support staff for the technicians. Yeah, we have a bookkeeper. We normally have a shuttle driver, although due to COVID, we've had to suspend our shuttle service
Mm.
temporarily.
Mhm.
We've got kind of a super for the building who also acts as a comedian and shop foreman in some ways. It's a great crew. It's a great
Yeah.
crew.
Yeah. And actually, Pellman's is one of the top-notch operations. I know you guys have won a ton of awards, but you're also an ASE Blue Seal shop, right? Most of your 75 or better percent of your technicians are ASE certified, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just a thing that we believe in because it's the right thing to do. It's a requirement.
Mm.
Our technicians, they could come to us and not be ASE certified, but they're going to grow here.
Mhm.
And we're going to get them to that master certified level. We're going to get them L1, L3 certified. We're going to get them there. If you don't believe in education, if you don't believe in certification, this is not the place for you for sure.
Mm.
I myself am an ASE certified master technician, although certainly not what I use in my day-to-day position for what I do for the company.
Mhm.
Spend much more of my time with my AMI learning and my leadership training that I've gotten over the years. That's really much more what I do.
Mm. And I want to talk to you a little bit more in depth about the training a little bit later on. But staying focused on you for a second, um, normal services you offer, I mean, brakes, tires, steering, and suspension, that sort of thing. Are you doing anything like hybrid work or stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Boulder, I think probably nationwide has a bit of a reputation, deservedly so, as being a little bit of a progressive, some people would say very left kind of college town, and it is in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Boulder is the only place in the country where one tree can fall down and crush 4 Priuses, and that has happened. That's real. Look it up. You can find the article.
Oh my God.
So yeah, we do a ton of hybrid stuff. We see a ton of electric vehicles coming in these days. Don't do much more than tires on them so far,
Uh-huh.
but it's a substantial piece of our market here in Boulder. Um, you know, we're bracing for what's coming with the electric wave, with hydrogen cell vehicles, with self-driving stuff.
Mhm.
We're trying to get ahead of that now because it's coming.
Well, and that's one of the reasons, again, we do these podcasts and our webinars and stuff, because electrification is going to be the next big disruptor, and it's already underway. I think
Mhm.
General Motors advanced their total electrification to like 2035 or something much sooner than we expected.
Yep.
And hybrids, the original hybrids are antiques now. They've been around long enough. Most people don't realize that. But we're undergoing not just one of the biggest generational changes we ever had in the industry, as you know, the baby boomers retire in droves, and the next generation comes in to run the business. But we're also undergoing, I think, a more radical frankly, technical development than even we faced in the late 80s and early 90s when all the electronic engine controls were first coming onto vehicles. We're seeing, wholesale changes in powertrains, things like that, that we have to, we have to learn.
Sure.
The industry has coped with this before. I know the death of the independent sector was predicted when disc brakes, when automatic transmissions were invented. Okay. And we managed to cope.
Yeah.
I have no doubt we'll do it this time. But from your position as basically managing the business and, having to make sure that your employees are kept up to speed on all this, what do you see as some of your biggest challenges working in the shop these days?
Um, well, I suppose in terms of talking about the technology piece of it, the biggest part is the technicians themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You're either taking the time to take advantage of all the learning opportunities that are out there, whether we provide them for you as a shop, which we do. We have lunch and learns.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're seeking it out on your own in the evenings and the weekends. Obviously, there's so much great opportunity out there to learn on your own time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, who we hire, right? How does a technician profile? What are we looking for? The guys that we're looking to hire as that next generation of technicians that are going to stay ahead of this stuff. That's exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for young guys that are self-learners, that are excited about the technology,
Mm-hmm.
that aren't daunted by learning how to use a picoscope and spending the time to figure out what's right, what's wrong, what's noise, what's not.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of older technicians that I work with too that are not daunted by that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the biggest challenge for me is identifying the right candidates, getting them in the building, keeping them fulfilled and sustained and excited about what they're doing. Because it is going to be a wild ride over the next 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be able to let down our guard. We're not going to be comfortable. We're going to be in a growth pattern individually.
Mm-hmm.
The whole time. There is no resting on our laurels in the near future. We're signing up for a slingshot for sure.
Yeah, to say the least. Well, lifelong learning is a given in most industries nowadays, frankly, and
Sure.
the automotive service industry is certainly no different. And you had made a medical analogy earlier. They're working on the same model that's been around for 200,000 years. We're not.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
but the challenge, I think, of finding the right people, which is, I think, what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any trouble finding technicians when you need them? I know that's been one of the major concerns that have been raised when I've done these interviews. Finding the talent that we need going forward. Do you see challenges in that area, or is things like the Pellman reputation enough to attract the people that you're looking for?
The reputation helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big part of it. You are constantly trying to cultivate a position in the industry that is recognized from abroad, whether that be nationally or locally. The right message has to be out there, and it has to be real. If you're saying you're one thing but you're not, that message gets out into the shops around you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely starts with that. Above and beyond that, once you've got the right people in the building, like I say, you really have to engage them in what you're doing, make them believe in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't had a hard time finding candidates to interview. Talked to a lot of exciting people, really from all across the country. Some of my best technicians that we've recruited over the years haven't come from the local pool. They've been excited about coming to Colorado from New York or from Texas. Maybe it's a great time to be recruiting in Texas. Now that it's been 5 degrees down there and everything shut down, they'd probably love the fact that we keep on going at 5 degrees up here in Colorado. But I haven't had a hard time finding good candidates.
Uh-huh.
It's really about finding the right one that's really going to fit right in the shop. And when those people have been here, they fit like puzzle pieces, and they tend to stay here a long time.
Mm. Well, that's the biggest challenge, is finding the right fit for the culture
Sure.
that you have. Let's talk a little bit about developing what you have. You alluded to that a little bit earlier as well. How do you keep your people trained? You mentioned lunch and learns. Do you have any kind of a formal training program?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's boy, that's been a challenge through COVID.
Mm,
It really has.
right.
As you know, it used to be easy for all of us. We could go to quarterly training that was either CTI or ASA backed or ASA backed. There's a
Mhm,
million different ways. WorldPAC has their program, NAPA has their program, and we'd all get in a room together with an instructor, and we would learn.
mhm,
And now we do that on Zoom. Now we do that individually with our headphones on at night while our kids
mhm,
doing their homework.
mhm.
That opportunity to just walk into a training facility and learn together has been disrupted. And I think that's provided a lot of great alternatives to that format. And now that we can actually pull people back into one room together, at least on the scale that we have in our own building, and
Mhm.
safely do this again with social distancing and masks and all of that. We're doing a lunch and learn for the technicians every Wednesday.
Mm.
We have quarterly training requiremements for everybody here. We actually structure our pay to that as well, right? There's a
Oh,
training bonus for all of our employees, incentive to keep up their training, whether they do it in group or whether they do it individually. Um, the truth is all of the people that work here are learners, and
yeah.
that's part of what they signed up for when they joined the team, and they love it. And I love being part of that.
Mhm.
Uh, I love being in the room with them, and I love the discussions that come from that. And I think if you're not a lifelong learner, certainly this isn't the industry for you. And one of the things that's always kept me excited about it, I've never been bored, not once.
Yeah.
Never had a boring year in my life in this industry.
That's been my experience as well. I've had I've been blessed to do a bunch of different things in my career, and all of them have been stuff that if I'd ever sat down and decided I was going to, it would have never happened that way. Okay.
Sure.
I'd like to say I planned everything out, but it's been those opportunities that you're able to take advantage of, I think, and build upon. That really is one of the, I think one of the attractions I have certainly for the industry. And it's something that I know there's lots of organizations out there who are trying to get that message out, because I served on an advisory council when I was in Virginia for a number of years. And during career days, it never ceased to amaze me just how uninformed, I guess is the word, most people are about the opportunities that we have in the industry. And in doing that, I also had a chance to talk to some of the younger technicians. And, one of the things they always said when I asked them what they were looking for in an employer was someone who's going to invest in me. And it sounds like that's what Pellman does with their people, especially along the training side.
Absolutely. Training certification, you're going to grow here. It's understood that it's just part of the culture, no
Mm,
doubt about it.
mm,
And I think honestly, there are a lot of younger people that are attracted to that, and I think it's an important message, going back to what you were just talking about,
mhm.
to younger people, that this is a fantastic industry. We do have an incredible opportunity for those that are willing to take on the challenge. And I think we fight a bigger battle with our image, going back to the medical analogies.
Mhm.
There's this perception that doctors are a certain level of technicians, if you will,
Mhm.
that lawyers are a certain level of technicians, if you will. Technicians are amazing, and what they have to know and what they have to learn and what they have to be capable of doing
Yeah.
is otherworldly. There's this perception that what we do is somehow less than that.
Mhm.
I think if we can overcome that perception, we're going to continue to attract more and more talented younger people to this industry. And I think that, ASA has a huge piece in doing that. And certainly one of the things that I appreciate about being part of that association.
Yeah. And you're right about that. I mean, we are responsible as an industry for our own image in the long run, but it is a very different world than it was certainly when I got into the business. And, I see technicians now wearing rubber gloves. It looks very much like a medical situation when you start hooking up all the test equipment that we use. And
Certainly.
the level of training that you need to have and the level of investment that you need to make in keeping yourself on the cutting edge is really, in many cases, exceeds some of the other, what we tend to think of as white collar careers. I heard
Absolutely.
our industry described as a new collar career by someone, and I agree with that assessment. I think that's very true because it's changed so much. You had
No doubt.
talked about, yeah, and you had talked about, we're all doing virtual events right now because of the COVID situation, which
Sure.
hopefully we're coming out of. And we have pretty much been forced to do everything virtually because, as you said, you don't have the physical space in many cases to meet some of the requirements.
Sure.
Has your team been taking advantage of the training that's been put out there? I know a lot of the industry partners have been actually offering a lot of free training during the COVID crisis. Has that been a help to keep people on the edge for the crisis?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, what's really great about the virtual training is when we can do it together, even if we, watch the same thing separately and then come back and talk about it at the shop. It brings back real world information for not only individuals in the shop, but it brings back a discussion. And I always feel like the best thing about training is the discussion that it creates within your team, the places that it takes you, that you grow together, much more so than if you were just going to sit in on a class on your own and not have a discussion about it ever. And there's no question that the online learning, the virtual learning has been absolutely invaluable through this whole process of trying to survive COVID as a business, as people, as a culture, trying to stay sane. It's been great to have that for sure.
Yeah.
And I think all of my technicians and all of my advisors would tell you the same thing.
Yeah. How's COVID hit the business in Colorado, in your area in Boulder? Has it done a lot of damage, or what's been your experience?
It has been such a roller coaster. So first of all, just going back to the groundwork of Boulder being kind of a very left university kind of place, people took the mask mandates and everything very seriously right off the bat. I heard very different stories around the country from different friends. And I get it. There's different cultures, there's different places. Boulder was one of those places that pretty much shut down. So going back a year now, I can't believe it's been a year.
Yeah.
We saw basically the demand for our services when the lockdown went into effect. We dropped to about 40% of normal.
Wow.
And that 40% of normal continued for about 3 months. We ran 2 different shifts of technicians. With each shift of those technicians, there were 2 different shifts of advisors. And the reason we did that was so that if somebody got sick, we could isolate one team and still continue to try to meet the needs of our customers. Mercifully, the precautions that we put in place, the safeguards we put in place, the team being really, really focused on staying healthy and taking care of themselves and making good decisions. It's been a year where we haven't had to shut down because of that. But what was really interesting is after that very hard and testing 3 months of 40% of normal business, boy, the community just came roaring back. And by the end of the year last year, GP wise, we had the best year we've ever had.
Wow.
And I really thank my community. I thank all of my employees who worked so hard. It was a great team effort to get there. And if you'd have asked me, in the middle of April last year, if there was any chance we were going to have a record year, I'd have told you you're out of your mind. But we'll see how things progress as everything still seems to be a little unsettled, but seems to be headed in the right direction. And hopefully we'll all have record years again this year.
Yeah, well, the vaccinations are going to make a huge difference once we get a lot of them out there. And I think that will give us the breathing room that we need to get back to whatever the new normal is going to be. It's going to be different. Things have changed. Some things are going to stick, as I've said on many of these broadcasts before. Customers kind of like the touchless thing, and shops that have been picking up and dropping off. Those are the kinds of services that I think are appreciated, particularly by busy millennials, to be honest with you. Sure. And I think that some of those things are going to hang around. But you're right. Getting through this past year, it was, I'm tired of using the word unprecedented. It's just something none of us had ever seen in our lives. Okay.
No, and we did it together. And
we did it
great.
together.
Here we are.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We got through it. And in some cases, we actually made up for what we lost already. I know some segments of our industry, the collision guys got hit pretty hard. Yeah. But on the mechanical repair side, it does seem to have bounced back quite a bit. And the comment you made about the community supporting you is important, I think, to note as well, because I hear that as much from the shop owners I've interviewed, supporting their own community, buying from the local restaurant, buying lunch one day a week or something, just so they can help the other businesses around them. But Pellman's
Absolutely.
has always been kind of involved in the community. As I mentioned, you guys have won a ton of awards, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, local awards are great. National awards are great. All
Hmm.
of that is great. And none of that happens, I don't think, without supporting your community.
Hmm.
And the Pellmans have done it in so many different ways. We've worked through emergency family assistance locally,
Hmm.
obviously giving back to schools, charitable organizations, the Humane Society. So many different people need your help in a community. And when you have a tight knit community where all different segments of the community are working together and helping each other out, like we've seen here in Boulder, everybody comes back strong from something like this. And
Hmm.
like you say, some things are changed forever and they won't go back, and that's okay. Change is good. Embracing change is good. But without that sense of community and without really helping out in your community, um, I don't think you can say you're a community organization for sure. And this is where the Pellmans are from. This is where they grew up. This is where their kids grew up. This is where my daughter has grown up. You go into the grocery store, your customers are your friends and your neighbors, and
Yeah.
that feeling is wonderful.
Yeah. Well, being engaged with your community is one of the hallmarks of the ASA members. I got to tell you, they all do that. And Brad's actually quite committed to the industry as well. In fact, as I mentioned, I'll be talking to him about some of that in an upcoming podcast. But, it sounds like you're pretty busy yourself. What do you do for fun? How do you relax? How do you maintain that life work balance that we're all talking
Oh,
about?
well, keeping up with a freshman in high school
Ah,
who is on the cheer squad and learning how to be a student uh, with only the opportunity to go to school 2 days a week. But she's also my ski buddy.
uh-huh,
So that takes up most of my time.
uh,
If I can find time for myself these days, it's going to be to go fishing.
uh,
Um, that's always been one of my great loves. And the pressure on the water around here has been crazy since COVID because everybody's working from home, everybody's got time, and
yeah,
everybody wants to get out and do something because they can't go to the mall and they can't go to the movie theater.
yeah.
Um, so it's been a challenge, honestly, but if I can go skiing with my kid, that's a good day. If I can get a day of fishing in, that's a good day. If my wife and I can take the dogs for a walk in the sunshine, that's a good day. And one of the great things about being in the position that I'm in right now is uh, I can walk away from this place at the end of the day, knowing that my team has done a fantastic job, knowing that
Uh-huh.
we've taken care of people, and leave it. I don't lose sleep at night thinking about work because I know that my staff is doing the right thing. They're following all of the beliefs that are instilled in me by the Pellmans, and we're just continuing to grow and um, take care of people. That's what it's all about.
That really is, and that therein lies a recipe for success, as evidenced by yourself and the business itself. That's been great. Um, you had mentioned, well, we talked about training your technicians, keeping ahead of that. And you had mentioned AMI, the Automotive Management Institute. I know Brad is an MAM, Master Automotive, accredited automotive manager, I believe,
Mhm.
and Lisa as well. Have you taken advantage of some of the AMI training for yourself? How are you developing your business skills going forward?
Yeah, I have, and actually going back a long time ago, I actually won an AMI video scholarship to go out to Vegas and train, which was
Oh,
awesome. Um, um, yeah, I have spent a lot of time to the point where I felt like I was getting so much of the same messages over and over again,
mm-hmm.
which I think everybody thinks at some point. And then you walk away from your training for a while, and you think you know what you're doing. And then you come back and you revisit it. You learn the same thing over again, but you hear something new. You hear something different.
Yeah.
And the takeaways, the longer that I've been in this business and the more time that I've spent going to the same training, the takeaways are huge, but they're little. You catch little things that you just have forgotten, or you hear it in a different way.
Yeah.
Um, and so much of it, I think, just comes from your peers, talking to your peers in the
Yeah.
industry, having conversations about what challenges they're facing, and again, being part of an association, you have an opportunity that you don't have when you just pull the covers over your head and stay in your own facility. so yeah, you never stop learning, you never stop training, and you look for those little takeaways that can be huge.
Yeah. When we talk to people about, what value they see in an organization like ASA, any association really, but especially ASA, the first words that come out of their mouth are the networking, getting able to
Sure.
meet and greet and talk to people that are doing the same thing I'm doing and maybe have an answer to a question that I've been struggling with for a while. Good ideas are meant to be shared. And I think that is something that I missed greatly over the past year, but I hope it's something that's going to come roaring back just like the business did once
I
we're
expect
through
it to.
once we're through it, because I think it is important to make those connections. And especially again, going forward, I know I benefited greatly from the advice and counsel I got from ASA members coming up through my career. And I think that type of transfer of knowledge, I think we call it paying it forward occasionally. I think it's important for the industry and to keep us moving in the right direction. But it
There's
sounds
no
like, it sounds like you've got a pretty good handle on the important stuff, especially the skiing. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, well, it's a good place to ski. Skiing
Yeah,
in Texas is a little rough.
yeah, skiing in Texas is a little rough. Yeah, yeah. We the last week notwithstanding, it's usually water skiing if we're going to be doing it here. So that's a whole nother issue.
Now I'm jealous. We don't have enough water here. That's fair.
Yeah. Well, hey, what can I say? So. Well, Dan, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. I know you're busy. I won't keep you all day, but any last words before I let you go?
I suppose the only other thing that I just want to say in regard to how I think about ASA and what it means to me and to my future and to everybody that I'm training their futures in the next generation is how thankful I am for ASA being such a strong voice in the lobby and everything that's happening at a really large scale level, because seems to me that more and more lately, right to repair is under attack. There's loopholes for electric vehicles not needing to share information so that consumers can take care of their own cars, or so that independents have the information that they need to diagnose and repair these cars that are coming down the pipeline. If somebody was going to ask me, hey, what does ASA mean to you and why do you care? That may be the most fundamentally huge piece of it in my mind and in my heart, that I know you guys are doing that work for us. And thank you for that, because it means the world to me.
Well, thank you for noticing. We're a service industry like everyone else. We are here to serve the needs of our members. And you're right. That's something else that comes up every time is the representation we provide for our industry at the highest levels of government in Washington, D.C. We're the only association that actually has a Washington, D.C. office doing such a thing. But it's always been an important role for ASA. But, it really comes back to our members. When I talk to our Washington rep, Bob Redding, he says, what I do is fine. Well, what really makes a difference are the thousands of ASA members that when we tell them, hey, you need to write your congressman or your local representative about X, okay, they do it. He said having that kind of community involvement really is what resonates with the folks in Washington. And I think, having an organization like ASA that can channel that and focus that is really important to the industry. Always has been, which is one of the reasons these organizations exist. And I think that, again, as long as we have individuals like yourself involved, we're in pretty good shape. So I appreciate the
Stronger
time.
together, stronger together.
Always, always.
Yep.
Well, Dan, it's been a pleasure. We have been talking with Dan Levin, General Manager of Pellman's Automotive Service in Boulder, Colorado. Dan, it has been great. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Tony.
Take care.